Folks, it's Steve here again with another beginner's tutorial on Dorico 5. As I had commented before, those of us that have had to make the switch to Dorico, there's some learning curve involved, but I have to admit that I think it's a very good program and has served my needs well. Um, the thing about Dorico 5, which is true of any software, is most of us, at least in the groups that I run in, are not power users. I don't have a really good word for those of us that use it only sporadically, a couple of times a month. But for those of us that sporadically use it, it can be difficult to remember all the key commands that help us have an efficient workflow. So today I'm going to go through some of the common key commands that I find that I forget about and when I go to write a piece of music on Dorico. So the splash screen here shows the common key commands that we're going to be covering here that I find really do increase the speed and efficiency of what I'm doing. Okay, so let's go ahead. I'm going to make this kind of off to the side here. Well, I'm going to have to move it back in a minute, but let's go ahead and open up Dorico 5. I'm on a Mac, obviously, and let's go ahead and just create a new sheet so we can just practice with these key commands. So I'm going to create an empty sheet. I'll add a single player. Let's make it my preferred instrument of a clarinet. Woodwinds, clarinet, B flat. Add. Let's go ahead then and duplicate the player because we're going to make some comments about that. So now we've got, a basic score here with two clarinets. All right, so we're going to go ahead and just add some notes, and then I'll show you what we're going to do with the key commands. Let's go ahead and move this over here like this, and maybe make it a little bit bigger, like that. Okay, and I think we can close that. All right, so let's go ahead and put in a few notes. Well, as you probably know, there are shortcuts to move between setup, write, engrave, play, and print. And so to put in notes, we have to be in the write mode. In this particular case, it's on a Mac, it's Command 2 takes you to write. Command 3 takes you to engrave, as you can see. Command 2 back to write. Command 2, we're in the write mode, in the write area here. And Shift-N brings the caret up to begin note entry. So just for the purposes here, we're going to put in some few notes. So just using the keyboard, you can see that we've got quarter notes selected. I'm just going to go ahead and add some notes. Okay, well, there you go. So we've added a few notes. To get out of write mode, of course, you hit escape. And now let me bring the common key commands back over here so we can see those as we're working here. Okay, so the first thing that it's very, very helpful to remember is how to move the selected notes around. Of course, as you know, you can simply use the arrow key. So here I'm using the left arrow key. But it's important to know that if you want to select multiple notes, simply hold down the shift, and you can see we're selecting increasingly more notes with just the shift key and the arrow. But let's say you want to then select the whole measure. Well, shift plus command plus arrow. Look, increases and selects all of the notes in the next measure. Okay, shift command arrow increases the highlight by a whole measure. And if you want to, of course, decrease it, just shift command and hit the back, no, forget that. You can't deselect. You have to actually go back and reselect. Okay, So let's say now what we want to do is we want to go ahead and have the second clarinet be in parallel thirds. Okay? Well, using key commands, as we said, you can shift command, right arrow, select the notes, and now I want to go ahead and create a second clarinet part playing in parallel thirds. The way you do that, once the notes have selected, we don't have to be in write mode for this. Once the notes are selected, open up the interval popover, and that is Shift plus I. So Shift I brings up the popover. Now, to make it a parallel third, you can simply say 3. But I want the parallel thirds to be below the first clarinet, so that in fact is -3. So I type in -3, I hit return, and you now see all of the parallel thirds are highlighted below the first clarinet, but I don't want them in the first clarinet part. I want them in the second clarinet part. Well, the way, since those notes are already highlighted, a simple key command will drop them into the system below in the second clarinet. And you can see it's Alt N plus M moves the selected notes to a different system. So in this particular case, M brings them down, N brings them up. So in this particular case, you hit Alt or Option, by the way, on a Mac. I should say Option. Alt or Option M. Voila. You can see that the notes have now been dropped to the system below. And like I said, they can be removed, put back up, Option M, Option N, sorry, brings them back up. Option M brings them back down. So this is a very efficient way to make a parallel thirds type, or it could be fourths or fifths or whatever you think. To unselect the notes, of course, just click anywhere in the screen. And that's how you do that. Now, I want to make a comment that I use all the time about hairpins. So let's go ahead and just drag and select those notes. If I want to add a hairpin, a dynamic hairpin, I can go ahead, select all the notes, and then go ahead and use them using the Shift key. As you know, do the greater sign, greater than, less than. So I'm going to go ahead and decrease. So now we've got a hairpin. But there are shortcuts that allow you to move the hairpin without using your mouse to drag. And this is important because using the key command, you can change the start and the stop of the hairpin by the amount that the caret is set to. And that can be more difficult to do when you're dragging. So in fact, you can change the start and the stop of the hairpin by the resolution of the caret. And you can do this without being in note entry mode. So if we want to move the entire hairpin to the left, right, bring it earlier in the piece of music, you can see that the beginning of the hairpin can be moved by the Option Alt plus the left or right arrows. So I'm going to go ahead, Option, left arrow moves the hairpins. Now you'll notice both hairpins are moving together because when I added the hairpins, I had in fact selected both clarinet 1 and clarinet 2. So they move together. So I've now repositioned by the caret the start of the hairpin. Now I want to move the end of the hairpin. And the way you move the end of the hairpin is you simply add Shift plus Option, and you can see that the hairpin is moving by the resolution of the caret, which is actually in eighth notes as we have it set up now. So that's actually how then you can change the start and the stop of the hairpin without using your mouse with a greater degree of specificity. Now this doesn't work just with hairpins. So let me go ahead and use my mouse and select two notes. Hit S for a slur, and let's say I want to change where the slur is. Well, it's basically the same thing. By pressing Option and the left arrow, you can see that I've moved the beginning of the slur mark to the next note to the left. Shift Option, right, will actually then extend the end of the slur mark. So once again, these are very simple yet frequently used key commands that can simplify and make some of your work, I think, much simpler. I should also, and I think you all would know this, but let's say you want the E here to start at forte and the A to end at piano in dynamics. Well, you can do this with a single popover, and I think you guys know how to do this. But I'm going to go ahead and hit Shift D to give me my dynamics popover. I'm going to start with piano. I'm going to increase to forte. And you can actually then, with one operation, change the dynamics within a single popover. Okay, I think that's all I wanted to cover for today. I appreciate everything. Thanks, everybody.